Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio, the only podcast in all of e commerce, to my knowledge, that features hundreds of successful students who are using the strategies that we teach in our flagship Amazon seller training course, which of course is called the Proven Amazon course. You can read all about it at provenamazoncourse.com. Provenamazoncourse.com. Best-selling, longest-lasting, most supported Amazon seller training in the whole Amazon seller universe. We've got so many great success stories too. In our free Facebook group, you can go check it out for yourself at silentjim.com. Jim is spelled Jim. That's me, silentjim.com. There's a Facebook group you can join, and you can see over 1,900 success stories where people have posted their results and talking about the challenges they have, the struggles they have. We're very transparent. Building a business is never easy, but you will find 1,900 posts in that group of people talking about their wins, their triumphs, their best day ever moments when this thing just starts clicking and they're building beautiful businesses. Everything from people who just started with a few $100s a short time ago, and they're getting momentum, all the way up to people with six-figure plus per month businesses, and it's a full-time gig with a team and it's going really well. It's all in the Proven Amazon course. No matter where you're at in your journey, there's some good stuff for you. And the student today is another Proven Amazon course success story. His name's Ryan Walsh. He's agreed to an interview with us today because he's having some great success and he wanted to just spread the message of, I think, perseverance is a theme that we're going to hear today. He's gone through some very serious struggles with his own health, with the health of people around him that he loves, relational, and in his marriage. He was transparent enough to share some details there. He even got suspended on Amazon at one point. It was quite a struggle. And it was scary, but our coaching team was with him. That's right. He's a coaching student. Our coaching team was with him every step of the way, got him reinstated, which you didn't know, about 99.5% of the time, reinstatement is inevitable if you persist. But that doesn't mean it wasn't scary. But he's still hanging in there. He's built a beautiful business. Things are going really well. He's very positive about the future. He was actually a sponsor at our last event because he's also into prep services now. He's got clients. He's helping brands expand on Amazon, which is one of the beautiful business models that helps you diversify your Amazon income, is helping other brands get on Amazon. The module inside the Proven Amazon course that teaches you that concept is called Proven Product Partnering, by the way, if you want to go through that. If you're a Proven Amazon course student, there's, as you know, dozens of great modules. One of them helps you get paid to help brands sell more on Amazon. Great way to diversify your income. Well, he's been on quite a journey. He's full of gratitude, and that's going to be very evident here in just a moment. It was truly a pleasure spending some time with him today. One last thing before we jump over and introduce Ryan and hear his story. We are still giving away the Silent Sales Machine book. That's the book that started this podcast in this community a long time ago, almost 20 years ago. Wrote the first edition. It's in its 11th edition now. It's been read by over 1 million e-commerce entrepreneurs. It's got over 1,100 five-star reviews on Amazon from the last couple issues that we launched out there. But we're giving it away free. All you have to do is text the word free to this phone number, 507-800-0900. Text the word free to that phone number. It's also in the show notes. Or if that doesn't work, the text doesn't work, there's other instructions as well in the show notes on how you can get that book. Maybe you live somewhere where you can't text in the US. That's fine. We'll get you signed up regardless. We'd love to get that book into your hands. It's got all the dead end mistakes that you could make mentioned and called out and listed. And I explain why those are bad ideas. It helps you decide what kind of business you're made for, how e-commerce fits into your life, and what business opportunities are available to you. It really is kind of a decision-making assistant book to help you know what the next steps are in your journey towards building multiple income streams using the internet creatively. And I love pointing that out because that's what Ryan has done. He now has multiple income streams. He started off with Amazon, didn't cost him a lot of money, didn't have to take a lot of risks. He built a beautiful business. He got up to about a couple $100,000, I think, before he started hitting some snags. Well, now he's capitalized on the knowledge he gained. and he's built multiple income streams, as you'll soon hear. And that's what the Silent Sales Machine book is all about. You can read about that book at silentsalesmachine.com if you'd like, and you can get it for free by texting the word free to the number I gave you that's also in the show notes. The show notes, as always, are at silentjim.com for this and all other episodes where you can hear hundreds of great interviews with our successful students. Well, let's jump over and meet Ryan. You're going to enjoy this time that we have together with him. So Ryan, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for carving out some time. And let's get right into your story. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So start us off, e-commerce.
Okay, so basically, I returned. I'm from Michigan here. Returned to Michigan years ago, and from a job that we'll talk about in a little bit. But went into the e-commerce world. Had a hard time finding the right industry fit, and so I initially started selling on eBay with sports memorabilia because I'm a longtime collector, and then switched to dealing memorabilia on eBay. And then when COVID hit, I wanted to diversify and add some consumer goods and learn Amazon a little bit more. And I had purchased the pack, found your pack course, and decided that I needed to go a step further in that and go all in on that. So I started the coaching program basically soon after COVID hit, thinking that the sports.
We're talking 2020 or so.
Yeah, 2020. Okay. I think around March of 2020. And with COVID hitting, I thought, well, people are going to have less money for sports memorabilia. It's a hobby business. I need to get into more things that are needs versus wants. So I started with Amazon, started with the coaching program. I got paired with Sue and Larry Pruitt. They've been great. They're a key part of my story as a whole here, and built up pretty fast for me. Anyways, I've heard plenty of stories that built up faster, but built up within 2 or 3 months to about 20,000 a month in sales.
That's phenomenal.
Was getting systems in place and all of that, and basically once I kind of had a full year of growing. I think that year I was around 200,000 in the first kind of full year of sales, and then had a lot of personal issues that hit basically in a 2-week span. I was trying to go back to my old line of work, and in that span, I had 2 immediate family members that already had breast cancer, and then my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer, and my wife told me that she wanted a divorce. So within that time frame, I then decided that I couldn't go back to that job full time, and then pivoted more into the community. I was kind of ramping down on the Amazon business so I could have it on the side and run it on the side. And then immediately had to go back to ramping it back up, got a VA through Legends VAs, and got back going again, was getting the same kind of traction, using your methods, inch deep, mile wide, getting products in there, all that stuff. And then very kind of immediately in 2000, it was last year, I got a couple IP complaints at the same time. It was basically brands trying to take their brand back, but they booted us sellers off the brands, and my store got deactivated. So I had to fight at that for several months, and it took 12 appeals, I think, total, and got back online. Got back going. At that point in time, items were being returned to me. So that was the inventory was already coming back. It was hard to kind of figure out what to do next. And during that time frame, I pivoted more towards the sports memorabilia side of my business. I actually used some of your teachings as inspiration. You tell people that everybody's got a book in them. I actually wrote a book during that time that the store was deactivated on sports memorabilia, and tried to kind of pivot into that space.
Good for you. That's awesome. What's the book, man? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. Actually, I have it right here. It's an introduction to sports memorabilia.
I love it.
Very creative.
You're covering it up a little bit. Let people see a nice clear shot of it, man.
Sorry about that.
For those who are watching, introduction to sports memorabilia. Does it say Ryan Walsh on there somewhere? I don't see it. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's on the bottom. Introduction to Sports Memorabilia by Ryan Walsh. Yeah, go snag a copy and leave him a good review. That's awesome, dude. I love that while your business was kind of under assault and there's a degree of uncertainty there for you said a couple months?
Yeah. It took
Man,
it took about 3 months to get back
wow. Yeah.
online, and it was never too sure. By
Yeah.
the end, they weren't sure I was going to get it back because we were, in the like I said, double digit appeals at that point.
Wow. You made it, but you wrote a book during that time. Good for you, dude. That's
Yeah,
phenomenal. Yeah, people, you hear about the suspension stories, and the vast majority of them still to this day. I mean, it's not uncommon to get suspended. It's uncommon for it to last as long as it did in your case, but it's very common. Like over 99% of them, they get back eventually, but it hurts, man. And there's an uncertainty there for sure. And that's actually one of the questions I'm going to have anytime I get an Amazon rep on, and someone with some authority and a position of authority at Amazon. That's the thing I pound on is, man, you've got to make it less uncertain for us as sellers. Even those temporary suspensions just cause such a wave of fear among sellers. There's got to be a better way, man, than 12 appeals, really? Like, what's so magical about the 12th one?
exactly. Well, and yeah, that's great that you're advocating for those things because that the issue for me is I try, to understand what people are asking of me, and then give that to them. At Amazon, as you know, they just basically respond and say we need more information. And so that makes it very hard to understand, okay, what do you exactly need from me? I've provided invoices, I've provided all the documentation that you've asked for. And then the funny part is on the 12th appeal, we were actually to emailing at that point. We were emailing different kind of section heads at Amazon. And it just so happened that the last one, the people that I used for consulting, basically said, "Hey, this is the last ditch effort. This is the Hail Mary here." And they emailed that group, and the next morning I was back up and running like nothing had happened. But a lot had obviously happened in that time.
Yeah. And with persistence, I mean, that's the happy end of the story. In our community right now, we have thousands of sellers. There are a couple right now, two, they're in the middle of a suspension.
Okay.
And it's just like the world is ending. This is terrible. They'll both be back with persistence, though. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. I hate when it lasts more than a few days. Typically, the vast majority of them, it's a day or two, and they're
Oh
back.
yeah,
The
yeah.
vast majority. So stories like yours are rare, and so it's kind of disheartening and heartening at the same time, right? It's like it's going to be okay, but it could take some time. And even those people who've had the last ditch effort, like, okay, let's try again a couple weeks later. I think Amazon just likes to see how serious you are sometimes about appealing. It's like, nah, let's make this guy appeal 6 or 7 times before we get him back in. Okay, here's the sixth one. Here's the seventh one. Finally. All right,
Right.
come on back. Because they do
Yeah.
have to throw a lot of scammers off the site every day. I did actually meet with the guy who was in charge of the team that suspends accounts. I had a
Mm,
conversation with him, and I just remember him saying it breaks our heart to know that we're out there shutting down legitimate businesses because the vast majority of what we're doing is we're shutting down total scammers.
of course.
And we
Yeah.
know we're losing a few in the cracks and we want to get them back as fast as possible. And that's, where things kind of break down. And sometimes it takes some time to distinguish yourself from the scammers once you're suspended. But yeah, good job on your persistence. I love that you wrote a book. That's just so cool. And send me a link when we're done so I can stick a link to it in the show notes for
Oh,
anybody
will do. Yeah,
listening.
thanks. Yeah.
Cool.
It's that's why I wanted to mention it because it really was listening to your podcast because I never really thought I could write a book. I didn't really have the confidence previous to say, well, I don't know what I would write about. But then after learning sports memorabilia for that long and becoming more comfortable with e-commerce through your program and through learning to sell, I thought, well, there's not a lot of content out there about sports memorabilia. So wanted to get more in that. And then actually, as far as the Amazon side of the journey, that time was pivotal too, because it kind of taught me I had to step back and reassess obviously where I was going with things. But then I started to kind of repurpose my Amazon knowledge to help other people. So one of the things that I had done in that time frame is, since I was ramping up, I was had a lot of products coming through, and I had a need for a prep center. And I went to the proven list and researched on the internet to find some prep centers. I contacted at least a half a dozen, and I only got one response, and the response was a hard no. They just had too many clients at the time. This was during fourth quarter, but I said I wanted to start in the first quarter of the following year. So I had a family member that had an e-commerce fulfillment location here in my area in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he was moving from manufacturing to e-commerce due to COVID and the changes in manufacturing, especially the car industry here in Michigan. So I told him, I said, hey, there's a need for competent prep centers, I think, in Amazon with the growth. And so I actually helped him start a prep center during that time, and consulted with him, consulted with some of his clients, one of which was actually on the podcast recently, Nicole Rona.
Yeah.
uh, she was on the podcast. I've actually spoken with her many
Cool.
times
Okay.
during that time where I was shut down, and kind of helping her, coaching her with her, but not coaching, but helping her with her business. And that was all through the prep center there. And we're actually going to have her back on as a client. So that's a nice addition
Nice.
to her story, because I
Yeah.
know she talked about how she was looking to get back into the prep center. So that just
Very
shows
good.
her
And
growth.
is that prep center listed in the prep center network list?
Yes, yeah, we're
Cool.
on the preferred partners. It's
Cool.
called Encore Business Group is the name.
Gotcha. PrepCenterNetwork.com is a free list of all the prep centers we know about. And the prep center Ryan's mentioning is one of them that's in there. So that's awesome, dude. Okay. Very cool. Connecting some dots. I didn't realize your connection there when we started the interview today. A lot of names and a lot of services out there. And I will echo the sentiment. We do have some content coming probably in early probably the first quarter of 2024, where we're going to teach people how to launch even a small prep center where they help just a handful of clients. It
That's great.
tacks on very nicely. If you're already doing some prep anyway, you got a little extra space, might as well take on a few clients, get yourself into the directory, do it the right way. And yeah, Prep Center Network is the list of prep centers that we have currently. But yeah, we hear from many people that say, yeah, I called 5, 6, 8 of them, and I'm not big enough, or they're not taking clients right now. So yeah, there's need for competent prep partners in the space for sure. So that's a great part of your story so far as well. I love it. Well, hey man, we kind of cruised right past something, and probably because I'm not sure exactly how to ask what I'm trying to ask, but how are you doing, man? You got the crud beat out of you. Like that was that 2021 ish? I'm thinking. You
Yeah.
got 3 sick family members. You go through a major family pivot. Like, how did all that resolve, and how are you doing? I'm just curious for my own purposes, if not the listeners, I'm sure are also curious. Fill us in, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Yeah, I know that was kind of a lot to digest, but I think it's an important part of the story as far as, trying to overcome those hurdles, because,
Mhm.
a lot of us have different things in life that we have to deal with. And those were things that I had to obviously deal with all at the same time. But I think kind of having them at the same time gave me more resolve, because I couldn't focus too much on one thing. I had to, especially my mom going through her cancer. I had to, she needed daily care and everything. And that kind of really, I think I already had this to a degree, but it kind of speaks to the service mindset that you talk about a lot on the podcast and in various places. I think that's been a key for me, just as far as the e-commerce business, but also in my personal life, pivoting into more of a service mindset where helping other people, I think, helped me through that time. Helping her and other people, whether it's with their businesses or with the personal life, I think helped me out. So yeah, I things are a lot better now. I think I'm putting some of the pieces together, like we talked about with the prep center, and then the book, and I'm looking into some content angles there. And then yeah, we're just applying a lot of the different things from the pack and from the community here. We use things like product partnering. We're actually in Carl's wholesale mastermind that he just launched, and because that's what I was trying to get into before I got shut down, was wholesale. And so
Mhm.
now with the whole operation, it's easier to do that. And And so, yeah, I think the future is much brighter now. But I think I had to go through that to kind of get over the hump and get to where I am now.
Just reading between the lines of what you said, and maybe this will encourage someone else not to drift too far in this direction, but I'm old enough that I've observed a lot of people go through really hard things and then either emerge or sink. And there's a common theme in the ones who emerge and rise up again and stronger, wiser, more equipped to tackle whatever's next versus the people who kind of fold, curl up in a corner, vanish, go away, and it's just a sad ending. What is that delineation? You hit on it. You
Yeah, I
become
mean,
you become other oriented. You
yeah,
have to.
yeah,
That's the way out. I mean, you even look at like the 12-step programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, or my mom's involved in Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christ-centered equivalent of Alcoholics Anonymous. They both start with like, okay, I'm a mess. I'm admitting I'm a mess. I'm admitting things are crazy right now, either because of my own decisions or because of just the world around me. The way out, you look at the last step, it's always turning around and helping others out of what you just been through. And you start turning your focus off yourself onto others pretty early in the process. In the end, that's all you're doing is you're helping others out of whatever they're in. And you're other oriented, basically becoming very out of necessity. My survival is the only thing I think about right now, too. Okay, I'm going to help others who are in desperate situations. And that becomes almost your driving purpose. But that is the way out so many times. It's your story just like illustrates that.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's the old adage that pressure either makes diamonds or dust.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think you have
exactly.
some control over what you do, the sink or swim concept, and yeah, I mean that. I look at times earlier in my life where I may have had career success and other things, but I wasn't as focused on some of the things that I am now, and always tried to be other oriented. But I think more so now, learning over the years and
Yeah.
stuff, and yeah, that's really got what got me through it. I looked at my mom with what she went through in her journey. She had 4 different surgeries, and it's like, well, I can't complain about going through a divorce or having this issue or that issue, because I'm watching her fight through it every day and do a great job. So she was in inspiration, and helping her, like I said, yeah, helped me greatly.
So is she in remission now, or what's the status?
Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
She finally cleared it. Took her basically the whole year, and but yeah, she's doing great, and we've always been close, but we're even closer now, and that's kind of what I moved back here for. I used to work
Okay.
on the East Coast and actually internationally. I worked kind of all around the world out of college, and so now with my parents getting older, I have 2 sets of parents because they were divorced, and them getting older, elder care issues, things like that. I wanted to be around for things like this. So I kept reminding myself, hey, this is why you came back. You came back so you could do something about this,
Yeah.
so you can
And
help her
and
out.
and the again, the e-commerce lifestyle, that's been a theme on many interviews on this podcast is people around them that they loved, family, getting sick, needing care, needing more attention, special needs kids, whatever, that kind of thing. Want to homeschool my kids. I want to be available. E-commerce is the solution. If you've got a 40 to 60 hour a week job that you got to get up early and you're not home till 6 or 7, you can be as empathetic as you want to be, but you can't be there and there at the same, you can't be there and there at the same time. You can only be one place. But if you've
Right.
got this business you stick in your pocket that allows you to be interruptible during the day, make it up later kind of stuff, do the work, squeeze it into the cracks of your life, we say around here. Got to imagine that's been helpful in navigating this season.
Oh, big time. Yeah, that's been part of the motivation to stick with this too, even when things were kind of going off the rails a little bit with the account closing and things like that. Yeah, it's been huge to be able to, take her to all her appointments, whatever else it is. And yeah, I mean, I know you talk a lot about, bringing parents home to be able to take care of their kids. It's kind of that situation in reverse for me. But yeah, I needed to be home to address all the health issues there.
Bringing sons home instead of
Yeah,
bringing dads home, right? Yeah, there
exactly.
we go, man. Well, good job, dude. I love your heart, man. You've got it a lot more empathy than you used to have. The world has beat you up and you've come out of it. And for those who can't see, you're wearing an IU sweatshirt. I mean, so come on, I've got to root for you there. Like IU is, for those who don't know, Indiana University is right down the road from where I live, and Ryan's wearing an IU shirt on the East Coast, which most people there probably don't know what it is.
No, no, yeah, and I'm from Michigan originally. That's where I live now.
A Michigan
And
guy wearing an IU shirt.
I
Those who
know.
don't know, man, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Some of my coworkers here won't like this. They're Michigan fans, but I have to rep the school I went to here.
Yeah. Well, not to dive too deep in this direction, but if you go back to it was 1976, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana won the national championship in basketball. And of course, Coach Bobby Knight, very famous basketball coach, was the coach at the time. My dad was the main sports photographer in Bloomington at the time. He could care
Oh,
less about sports, but some of the most iconic, famous photos of Bobby Knight during the peak of the Bob Knight era in IU basketball were pictures my dad took, and you can still see him to this day online. And there's a cool one of him and Coach Krzyzewski together when Coach Krzyzewski was just a little young kid out of
right.
school, and as his assistant coach before he went on to Duke fame. But my dad took that photo. It's one of the more famous photos, probably. But yeah,
That's
little
great.
IU Bloomington history
That's
uh,
cool.
tying
Yeah.
into the sweatshirt there. Yeah. Hey, we'll get back to the program in just a second, but I've got to tell you about the great sponsor today, Seller Board. Get over to silentjim.com/numbers. Spell it out. silentjim.com/numbers numbers. You're going to see a link to the tool that has become quickly the preferred tool in our community for helping you track your numbers, helping you know which of your ASINs are making a profit and which ones you should walk away from, at least temporarily, because you're not making any money. It can be fairly tricky to know and dial in all the Amazon fees and all the expenses. Well, that's what Sellerboard helps you do, among a whole bunch of other things. It's a great tool that's become a great sponsor of this community. We've helped send a lot of very happy users their way. They've got a great discount for you as well. Get over to silentjim.com/numbers and check out Sellerboard. You're going to love what these guys are up to. It just keeps getting better and better. And their starting prices are so ridiculously low. It becomes a bit of a no-brainer. Go check it out. That's Sellerboard at silentjim.com/numbers. Let's get back to the show. There's a cool one of him and Coach Krzyzewski together when Coach Krzyzewski was just a little young kid out of
Right.
school, and as his assistant coach before he went on to Duke fame. But my dad took that photo. It's one of the more famous photos, probably. But yeah,
That's
little
great.
IU Bloomington history
That's
uh,
cool.
tying
Yeah.
into the sweatshirt there. Yeah,
Yeah, that'll now when I see those photos, I'll have to think of
yeah.
you
Look for
when I see
photo
them.
by Russ Cockrum in the bottom corner.
Okay.
And if it's an old black and white from the 70s, when I used basketball was arguably at its most famous. Yeah, odds are my dad took that shot. Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty cool. Well, yeah, not to get too distracted, man. Let's keep your story going. I love hearing the details, and we're kind of wandering around a bit, but we're weaving a great tale here of, I think, inspiration for folks. And so, what are you up to now? Like, what's the business look like? What's your reality now that you've kind of recovered and come through the chaos a little bit?
Yeah, so basically now kind of running the prep center full time with my cousin and business partner, and it's been a nice melding of the Amazon experience that I have, and then he's got a lot of e-commerce experience. So we have a whole wide range of customers. We have prep center customers, but we even have larger customers. Like we now are a supplier for Sleep Number for our area.
Oh,
So
cool.
so it's a good mixture of,
For
of
beds.
business
Yeah,
for us.
that's great. So, how big a warehouse do you guys have?
So we're in the process of moving as part of our scaling here. So that'll be about a 15,000 square foot facility.
Nice. And how many people you have working for you?
We have five full timers and then a kind of array of part timers depending on when we get
Okay.
busy, and we'll probably be adding a couple here as
Okay.
we grow.
Gotcha. Are you guys still selling on Amazon, or have you transitioned fully to prep services?
We're mostly into prep services. We are going to do the wholesale angle
Right, because
with
you mentioned
Carl
you're in
here.
Carl's wholesale
Yeah,
mastermind, yeah, which is
yeah,
probably closed by the time people hear this, but the content will be added at some point to the Proven Amazon course. We've got a great wholesale training in there as well in the Proven Amazon course for those who are curious. But yes, you are going to maintain a presence on Amazon as well
yeah.
as sellers. But I see this happen quite often where the door of opportunity gets opened by certain business models, low hanging fruit, proven Amazon course models, but then that leads to partnerships, relationships, other opportunities to serve in the e-commerce space. And it's a great story.
That's been the key for me is, obviously I had different things that the replens kind of caught on, and then had issues with my account. But I kept layering different things on. I kept taking different courses, understanding different models. And I think that's a key. Obviously, people have had great success with, especially the replens model. And I know that's where you kind of start off in the coaching program most times. But yeah, I think a key is to understand that there's a lot of different paths that you can go down. I mean, there's many different angles. Some people are drawn to different sectors of it, the partnering sector, the KDP. A lot of people have had success there. So the amount of content that you guys provide is huge. And I do want to say about the coaching program too, in that time where it was getting kind of rough, obviously I had, the support of my mom, and, was dealing with her a lot. But another person that never gave up was my coach, Larry Pruitt. So
Mm,
he was key to keeping me kind of on the straight and narrow there with the business journey, because it felt like every call something else was going wrong. But he never gave up, and then we reconnect at the conference this year. And but I think that's a statement, for the coaching program, that
yeah,
once you're in it, you're in it for
that's
life.
right. Yeah, I mean, I had an email today with a guy that was in our coaching program over 7 years ago, and life got in the way. Things got busy. Things didn't quite work out. Whatever, went on, and he emailed us like, "Hey, am I still considered eligible to be helped by your team?" Like, absolutely, yeah. We've been doing this 20 years. We've had the same offer from day one. Once a student, always a student. We're here for you. And yes, we're going to be working with them again. But yeah, Larry and Bruce Suet, just incredible leaders on our team. There, we've got 60 coaches, so we've divided them up into
Wow. Okay.
coaching teams. And Larry and Sue have one of those teams. We've got 4 teams basically, and
Okay.
they manage one of those teams. And yeah, they're doing a tremendous job. Been with us. They're probably rising in the rank to the coaches that have been with us the longest coming up on. I mean, Nathan, the coaching director, has obviously been with me from day one for 20 years.
Sure.
Larry and Sue are right up there, seniority wise. Yeah, doesn't surprise me a bit that they were with you through thick and thin and encouraging you. And because there's a pattern to this. We've coached 10,000 people at this point. There's patterns here. Permanent suspensions really are ridiculously rare, to the point where it doesn't really even get our heart rate up when we hear of a suspension, because it's just a matter of, okay, is this going to be a quick reinstatement, or is it going to drag out a little bit? That's really the only thing where a permanent suspension is so ridiculously rare that we don't even consider that. It's like, yeah, it's going to be okay. Eventually it will be okay. It's going to be fine. And it was, thankfully, for you. But that's awesome, man. Getting a little more into wholesale. You mentioned proven product partnering. Did we visit that enough, or do you have some clients? You mentioned the mattresses. Are you actually helping them on Amazon, or do you have any Amazon-based clients that you're working with?
Yeah, we do. I think that's a good way to apply kind of the Amazon knowledge
Mhm.
that we bring to the table, and add a service to the prep center world, because we see a fair amount of clients that get in there, and as obviously you guys provide a lot of resources, but you're doing everything for your business. Hopefully you're outsourcing and following the path that you guys set out, but it's still a lot to do. We want to take the prep services off of people, but we feel like through all the different products that we see and our experience, we can provide some extra services with guiding them. Some of them, have a harder time with the Amazon platform or want to get into other platforms. We also, can get them onto eBay and Shopify. We fulfill from all those.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a service that kind of fits with the model as kind of an added service that we can offer.
Yeah, that's great. And kind of combining the prep services, which is kind of borderline mindless, just putting stuff in boxes, making sure it gets to where it needs to go, but saying, hey, okay, this brand is trying to sell more of its stuff, and we have some Amazon expertise. I've been fond of calling Amazon knowledge one of the most useful business skills you can possibly have right now in the world. The ability to help sell more on Amazon. There's very few brands out there that don't need your help. I was at a
It-
trade show here just last week, going, talking booth to booth, product owners, people who are trying to sell more of their stuff in the world. And granted, 85% or so of their sales are in traditional brick and mortar retail, but that 15 to 20% of online, dominated by Amazon, is very quickly needing more and more of their attention, and they don't know what they're doing in most cases. They're confused by it, they're frustrated, they're disappointed by it, but it's a necessary evil. So someone who has a bit of experience and knowledge like you, Ryan, or like anyone who's been through some of the modules of the Proven Amazon course, you can get into one of the modules, just so the listeners know, Ryan, I know you know this, but Proven Product Partnering is the module inside the Proven Amazon course collection. And it teaches you how to partner with brands that need help on Amazon and how to get paid well to do it. Combining that with a prep center, yeah, your customers are already sending you their stuff. It's like, hey, we want you to send more of your stuff so we can sell more of your stuff. It's good for everybody. Let us help you with your brand. That's a great model. Very good. We may
Yeah.
have to weave that into the training we're going to do for prep centers here next year.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a smart addition. Yeah, the incentives align, like you said. The more we always tell people, the better you do, the better we do.
Of course.
We're
We don't
aligned.
want your stuff just sitting here on the shelf collecting long-term storage fees.
Exactly.
We need
That's
it.
not the model there. So yeah, that's been a good fit where, especially with already, like you said, with already fulfilling, we learn things through that part of the process and then apply the Amazon knowledge, and then we can be kind of more of a full service prep center from that aspect.
Beautiful. Well done, man. You've built a very diversified portfolio of income streams, and it's all revolving around e-commerce. What else is on your mind? What else part of your story? Now, you mentioned before we hit record, I don't know if it ties into your story at all, but I found your previous career very interesting. Is that anything you want to dive into or tie in or not? Because that is completely up to you, but
Yeah, we can do that. I'm comfortable with covering that. I think it's an interesting part of the story, and kind of probably unlike anybody else's story. I don't think I've heard any on the podcast with that background. So yeah, it just kind of shows how you can do this from all walks of
yeah.
life here.
Yeah, I don't think I've had anyone come from your specific background into full-time e-commerce in our community. So yeah, fill us in on what you did as much as you can. And I don't even know where those lines are and what you can and can't say because it's such an interesting career background that, go for it, man. Let me hear it.
Okay, yeah. Thankfully, I've gotten better over the years at it, but this will be the largest entity that I do this on. But yeah, we're recording on 9/11 here, and I was reflecting to you before the call that this is one of the most important dates in my life, because it happened while I was in college at Indiana, but back in 2001. But that led me to working for the Central Intelligence Agency, and so that was the job I got out of college. And I spent a total of 7 years there. Spent several years overseas in various areas. I spent a 2-year tour in Cambodia and worked at the embassy there. And I think that helped to kind of formulate the some of the service mindset that we talked about, and just the idea that when things did kind of unravel for me, especially some of the areas that I went, like Cambodia and other areas. I think it was the 10th poorest country in the world while I was there. They had such they were so upbeat about their situation for what that country and what that area has gone through. It helped to formulate things going forward. And then I returned here about 10 years ago, was getting burned out from the lifestyle, was having health issues. And so I came back and had to have some surgeries, including one on my arm. And then that actually, we were talking about basketball earlier, but that actually led me to break my arm. I got nerve damage in the surgery, and that led me to breaking my arm just from a simple fall in basketball. I shouldn't have broken my arm, but the nerve damage weakened the arm. And I ended up having 5 surgeries on this arm total, and being told by the doctor that I was going to lose the arm, lose the function of the arm altogether.
Wow.
So I wanted to tell that part of the story, because that is kind of pivotal to the path part too, because ever since then, I've been trying to find something that I could do that has accessibility too. And I know you've talked about that on previous podcasts, that this is something that you can do, even if you do have, those issues. And
Physical
so,
challenges. We've got people that
yeah,
do it from bed. If you know how to use the internet and
yeah,
you've got one working hand to tap the buttons on the screen, I don't think we've had anybody without hands do it, but I mean, the internet's accessible to anybody now, verbal commands and such. It's like, yeah, it's there. If you got the willpower and the willingness, the drive to do it, I love it, man. So that's kind of what led you into this as well. And for those who are listening today, which most people who listen to the podcast just listen. you see on YouTube, you know what I'm about to say, but Ryan, you're using both your arms, you're waving around, you're very expressive with your hands. It's almost like you
Yeah.
have an appreciation for your ability to use that arm. It's like, I'm going to use it every chance I get because I still got it. And you still play basketball. We were talking before we hit record, which is awesome, man. Knowing that part of your story, that's just tremendous. I love it.
Yeah.
You've really been through it. And let me key on one other thing you said too about the
Sure.
Cambodia thing. I don't want to just blow past because we did the same thing with our family. We were in Guatemala, which is very poor. You think Mexico's poor? It's nothing compared to
Right.
Guatemala, right? So we had our family there. We adopted one of our children's from Guatemala. We were there for about 120 days to
Wow.
finalize the adoption process, and we saw actual poverty. When I say actual poverty, I mean actual poverty in our house is people who don't know if they're ever going to eat again.
Yep.
People who sleep random places each night because they don't have that's real that's most of the world has real poverty. Here in the US, you don't see much actual poverty, right? You go to one of these other countries, Cambodia, you mentioned, you come home with such an appreciation of the opportunities and how blessed we are. Clean drinking water is a luxury in so much of the world. And until you've been somewhere where that's the case, you're like, I'm thirsty. Like, wait a second, we're going to have some trouble finding some drinking water. Like, what's the plan here, guys? Like, until you've been there, you don't quite appreciate just how good we have it, how blessed we are. And that can really, it changed their worldview, even as young kids, to see, and you mentioned this, happy families, smiling, loving each other, enjoying life, very uncertain about what life looks like a week from now, but we got today and grateful to God for it and loving the people around them, even though the future is so uncertain. How strong the human spirit can be. It's inspirational.
It is. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, one of the stories that always sticks out during my time there that I kind of remember in times of trouble, they had the Khmer Rouge that
Mhm.
was a dictatorship there
Yeah,
that took part in
monstrous.
mass killings, and
Yep,
it's a very very sad
just
story,
brutal.
obviously. And but they one thing that I always think of with kind of with the poverty angle as well is our driver who I was very close with would tell stories kind of like we're talking, and his stories would be, instead of the issues I'm talking about, it would be that there were bodies in the streets and he didn't have shoes, so he'd take shoes off of a body and that's how he would get sandals.
Mhm,
And like he tells
mhm.
it just like, oh yeah, but yeah, so they
Matter
were,
of fact.
yeah, and like, but
Yeah,
not a complaint at all. Just that was my way of life, and that's
that's
how I
his
grew up.
reality.
And he had a great outlook and was very positive, great worker, and yeah, that was very inspirational to me. Just watching the people over there and how they withstood all of the challenges that they had, and then yeah, people talk about first world problems that couldn't be
Mhm.
more evident to me after returning from some of the areas, because a lot of the areas that I worked there because they had issues like that. We had a fairly decent sized embassy in Cambodia because of the issues that that country has been through over the last few decades here.
Yeah.
So
And I gotta imagine the ultimate dream for most people who would come through that embassy was to somehow get to America,
yeah.
right? I mean, I've never been to Cambodia, but I've been to other poor countries, and we lost our passports when we were in Guatemala,
Oh,
so we had to go to the U.S. embassy to
yeah.
get replacement passports. We were pretty panicked until we realized, it's like, okay, they got pictures of it. It all worked out, but we just walked right in. And we had to walk right in 3 or 4 times, to get everything taken care of over like, hey, come back in 4 days, come back in 5 days. Every time we'd come back, we noticed this line. It had to have been 1,000 plus people line waiting to get into the same building. We just walk right in as American citizens. And every one of those people was trying to move the process forward a couple inches to hopefully someday get a chance to come to the United States legally, and
Yeah.
just brutal, long, drawn out, complex, expensive process. And they were all willing to do it. Just how blessed we are. Man, it's just that perspective is not something you can communicate verbally till you've experienced and seen it and lived it and come back seeing people who are, doing life with very different rules and
Oh yeah.
still somehow surviving and thriving and having beautiful families and thanking God every day for a blessing of another day. But man, we've been given so much here. So it's almost frustrating to me to meet people like, yeah, I thought about doing a business someday, but Netflix and I like to just kind of hang out in the evenings. I don't want to pressure myself to like, no, you don't understand the gift you've been given, the time we live in. Build
Oh,
something significant, do something, you know? And so I love your overcomer spirit, man.
yeah, that's a big one for me. Between what we're talking about, all the kind of personal issues and the experience, it created a sense of urgency that, like you said, instead of just pivoting an hour from like that show that you would watch on Netflix or whatever kind of escapism you're going into that day. If you do an hour of the pack course or an hour of working on your business, that reaps a lot of dividends as you go forward. And I feel like it was hard to see that at the time for me. I was dedicated to the business. I was working very hard, but it was hard to see that at the time. You're not seeing that right then, but you see it as you go forward down the road with the knowledge that you gain, with the experience you gain, and with the sense of accomplishment, because you build on that hour, and then it gives you another hour, and you build on that accomplishment, and then you get used to that habit that you've kind of built on another one.
Yeah, you can get just as addictive to good, healthy habits as you do, and suddenly it just comes natural to do the things that you got to do to stay fit, build your business, work on your marriage, work on your relationships, manage your finances. Those are just good habits.
Oh yeah.
It's habit, and just like bad habits, you do them enough times, and it takes a few weeks to establish a habit. But I think you're going to encourage a lot of people. It's like, well, I've had a rough time. Well, I haven't been through all that, and here you are, still standing, smiling, building a beautiful business, serving this community with excellence, still playing basketball, which is awesome, man. You got to play with us next time. You guys going to come to the conference in May?
We're hoping to sponsor again like we did last year. That was a great experience, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'd like to play basketball. You hit on something that people don't often tell me, which is, yeah, I think I do speak with my hands more, and even like when I shoot, because it's my dominant hand. Even
Yeah.
when I shoot, I feel different about shooting, because just the ability to move that hand at all, is a blessing here. And so yeah, I don't have the game I once did, but it'd be fun to run around with you guys down there. And
Oh, we had a good time last year. About 20, 25 of us went into a gym and had a few courts going. Some of us just shooting around, some of us playing, going hard. We have some talented ball players in this community. I'll tell you that, man. It was a good time. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys down there next year. And we'll have to find a basketball court, man. And
yeah, I feel like
games
there's got to
in.
be some good courts in that
Oh,
area.
we'll figure it out for sure. We've
Yeah.
managed to. We've done it several of the events. I say about half the events this is gonna be our 12th one. I'd say five or six of them we've played ball as one of the one of the evenings. So as many things going on in the evenings at these things. We've learned to keep the evenings very open and free because people plan all kinds of different things. We're going to be right next to SeaWorld too, which I'm sure a lot of people will be wandering over there. Check that out as well. But well, man, it's been great hanging out with you, Ryan. Was there anything else on your list that you wanted to go over? Or any questions for me? If we left anything out, this is a chance before we start to wrap this one up. I do have a hard break here coming up before too long, but was there anything else on your mind?
No, I mean, I think, like you said, hopefully this helped people. That's why I got so much into detail with my story. It's not to complain or vent or do anything like that. It's to let you know that there is light after the darkness. There's light on the horizon, and if you feel like there aren't people there to support you, this community is. I am. Reach out to me directly if you need to. Doesn't have to be about prep or anything else. Just if you need some encouragement, I'm happy to do that for people.
And it sounds like you got another book in you to me as well. You're very articulate. Typically, people who can express themselves very clearly and articulately in conversation make great authors. It's because they can map out the thoughts that they're trying to convey, and it's a joy to read through. You can follow what they're trying to say, and with clarity. I think you've got some other books in you, man. That's just my personal observation. The
I
journey
appreciate
you've been
that.
on, the stuff you've overcome, and then there's more to it than what we even went into today. I'm sure there. Each one of these stories has a bunch of details that we left out today, but I think you've certainly encouraged me, and I think the listeners are going to benefit from this tremendously as well. So thank you, sir. Appreciate your time, and thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the time, and yeah, appreciate all the resources that you provide to the community here.
Thank you, buddy. It's good spending time with you. Well, let me talk to the listeners for just a moment as we wrap this one up. And just emphasize that if you want to hear hundreds, we've over 700 episodes now, hundreds of stories with the great students of the Proven Amazon course, how they're using those strategies to build beautiful businesses, all this stuff that comes on the trails of having built those businesses and built those relationships in this community. Just so many beautiful opportunities. There's hundreds of episodes. Just scroll back in time, silentjim.com. Most of the episodes are interviews with those students who have built beautiful businesses at all stages. Some are just starting, some have built six-figure a month businesses and scaling up from there. Many of our coaches on our team have come from those students. By the way, if you want to work with a coach, there's a link at silentjim.com as well. And all of our coaches are successful students from this community who started with the Proven Amazon course. So that's a great way to go further faster if you're interested. But on behalf of the entire leadership team and my great guest today, Ryan, hey, once again, great job, buddy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And everyone else who helped make this episode possible, our great sponsors. God bless you, business building warriors. We'll have another great episode very soon. We'll talk to you then. Hey, one last thing before I let you go today, a little reminder. Today's sponsor was Seller Board. They are a tremendous partner of this community. They've been supporting hundreds of users who listen to this show, who are thrilled with the service they're providing, from a simple tool that helps you know if you're profitable or not in your Amazon business, which of your ASINs are winning, making you money, which ones are losing, costing you some money that need to be cut out. It would be so helpful to know, wouldn't it? Well, that's what Seller Board does. It's very simple to set up, low costs to get started. They've got a special offer for our community, and you can check it out at silentjimdotcom/numbers. Go check them out. Thanks, Seller Board. Hey, we'll have another great episode for you very soon.